All right, folks, welcome to our webinar today, the Life Skills Training Information Session. My name is Kris Glunt. I'm a Prevention Coordinator here with the EPISCenter. I have two presenters on the line with me today. We have Sebrina Doyle, a Research Associate here at the EPISCenter, as well as Drewelow, a Project Manager for the Blueprints Project. She is centered out of Eastern Pennsylvania. She's one of the representatives that you would likely be working with if your district were to move forward with this program. We are going to move rather quickly today. I have heard from many of you that many of you are working in a school district, whether you're a teacher, an administrator, or other school professional. I know your time is limited, so we're going to go through this quickly. I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about life skills training in general. I will turn it over to Sebrina Doyle, who will talk a little bit about the research outcomes that we collected in 2013 and 14 as a result of our work with this project. And then I will turn it over to Drewelow, who will talk about some specifics about the application process, best practices, and relevant information for your district in terms of, applying for this project. I do want to mention that if you have a question, please go ahead and submit it in a Q&A pod located on the left-hand side of the Adobe Connect window. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be available to watch later. Participants will be emailed the link to watch, along with slides and other materials from today's presentation. So just to get started, some of you may be familiar with life skills training. Some of you may not. It is an evidence-based substance abuse prevention program designed to be implemented within the middle school or junior high school. It does contain 30 lessons over the course of 3 years. And those lessons are typically delivered in a step-down fashion with 15, 10, and 5 over a 3-year period. And this program touches on 3 major objectives: personal self-management skills, general social skills, and drug resistance skills. And the idea is if we can develop a skill set within each of those areas, students are less likely to use drugs, alcohol, and tobacco, and it also helps to reduce violence and other high-risk behaviors within this age group. Just to reiterate, this is a program that would be implemented in the middle school or junior high school over a 3-year period, beginning in either 6th or 7th grade and running for 3 years. The sessions are typically 40 to 45 minutes in length. The program can be taught 1 to 5 times per week. Typically, through our work here at the EPISCenter, we have supported folks implementing life skills training with PCCD funds, and oftentimes those lessons are delivered in health class. That does not always have to be the case. That may be a question many of you have. Some of you may be interested in this, but you don't have health class in each of those 3 years. So I'll allow Karen to touch a little bit on what some other implementations are doing maybe to work around that if you don't have health class available in one of those 3 age grades. Life skills training is highly recognized by a number of very respected organizations. I won't go through all these in detail, but the bottom line is this is a program that's been highly researched for a number of years, and it is supported by many organizations. It's listed as a model program by many organizations, and we know that it works. And that's why the EPISCenter and Blueprints is strongly behind this and promoting this program in Pennsylvania. Just to touch on the importance of why your district may be interested in choosing an evidence-based program. First and foremost, these programs are typically very structured. They're manualized, they're easy to use, and they also come with tools that allow you to ensure that your program is implemented with fidelity. And why is that important? As we just discussed, this program is highly researched. We know that it works, but we also know that you need to implement to the model. We need to implement with fidelity in order to get those same positive outcomes that we saw in the research. We also know that there are a lot of programs out there that are ineffective or even harmful, and we feel like we are in a position in working with youth, trying to see positive youth outcomes. We're obligated to do what we know is effective with those kids. These programs are well packaged. They offer staff training and technical assistance. Karen will touch on that to talk specifically what that looks like relative to this project in life skills training. Additionally, we're all trying to do more with less. There's a lot of information that is available that, we know that many of the evidence-based programs have financial benefits that far outweigh their costs, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like with life skills training. We also know that when you're utilizing an evidence-based program, if you're implementing with fidelity, you're likely to get positive outcomes. We do encourage sites to collect outcomes data around your implementation so that when you're looking to sustain these efforts moving forward, you have some data to support, look, we're implementing an evidence-based program and we're seeing great outcomes. And it allows you to seek out various forms of funding from policymakers and community leaders to sustain your efforts. Again, life skills training, this is a program that has a great body of research behind it. It's been researched for over 30 years. The results consistently show that it can cut adolescent tobacco, alcohol, and marijuana use, as well as reduce more serious forms of drug involvement and violence delinquency. We also know that LST is effective with a broad range of students. And again, it's cost effective. There are reports out there that indicate for every dollar spent in implementation, you're going to receive over $11 in benefits. So that's pretty good. Additionally, we talked a little bit about some of the short-term outcomes. We also know that LST has some long-lasting reduction outcomes over 12 years later. So not only are you providing an educational opportunity for your students now, you're preventing long-term drug use potentially years down the road. I am going to turn it over now to Sebrina Doyle, who's going to touch on some of the rollout information that we had from 2013, 2014 relative to the outcomes data within that cohort.
Hi all. So as Kris was saying, LST does have a great body of research behind it, demonstrating that when compared with control groups, we see some great reductions in alcohol, tobacco, and other substance use. One of the things that we encourage people to do with LST is to actually collect outcomes data. This is done by using the pre-post tests that are available both on the EPISCenter website and on the Botvin LifeSkills website. Being able to access, you're able to easily access that information. In 2013-2014, as this was being rolled out the first time around in Pennsylvania through this project, we had 52 school districts participate. Of those, 35 of those school districts also elected to collect data to show the outcomes of their program. Now, all of those districts were able to receive their outcomes data, and 25 of those agreed to allow us to use their data to show you all, to show how these programs are working here in Pennsylvania. Now, what I'll be showing you are the results of the pre-post tests. So these don't necessarily address specifically the reduction in drug use, but instead it addresses a change in knowledge and skills that lead to those long-term outcomes that we spoke about earlier. So the first piece that you're seeing on your screen right now is looking at knowledge change from pre to post. So this is in green you see the pre-test average, and in blue you see the post-test average. Now when I'm talking about the average, I'm talking about the average across all of the school districts that agreed for us to be able to use their data. So this is over, and on average, these school districts had each had 144 students that took the pre and post test. So the overall change in knowledge increased by 10% overall. Knowledge of drug use increased by 12%. Knowledge of harmful effects of drugs increased by 12%, and overall life skills knowledge increased by 9%. We also saw increases across the board in positive self-image, good decision-making, knowledge of negative media influence, anxiety reduction, and effective communication. These changes were anywhere from 4% up to 13%. Again, these are all increases. So one of the things that we looked at was actually whether or not these changes were statistically significant. So overall, knowledge of the harmful effects of drugs and life skills knowledge, we saw across the board 100% of districts saw either trending or significant positive change in this area. We also saw, as you can see, negative media influence, anxiety reduction, and effective communication have almost all of the school districts showing either trending or significant positive change. Only positive self-image and good decision-making did we see with less than half of the school districts showing the significant or trending positive change. But I just want to go back for 1 second and show you, as you can see on this screen, kids at pre-test actually were doing pretty well in those particular areas. So they were already at pre-test showing overall averages of 84% and 85% correct on the pre-test scores. So now I want to talk just a little bit about the actual skills. So here we're looking at refusal skills, assertiveness skills, relaxation skills, and task persistence skills. Again, all things that are taught through the LST curriculum. Overall, we saw across the board increases, although in some cases those increases were a little bit less, such as you can see in task persistence, there's just a small increase from pre to post. And here's the information again on either trending or significant positive change within across the school districts. So we had about 35% of our school districts that changed that had significant or trending positive change in refusal skills. We had a lot over 50% had significant or trending positive change in assertiveness and relaxation skills. Only task persistence skills seem to be a challenge. And again, I want to go back really quick to say, as you can see here, a lot of the kids that provided data in the beginning actually did show that they were fairly confident in some of their refusal skills, which may explain why we had less than 50% of the significant or trending positive change. So just really quickly, why should you collect outcomes? We're hoping that everyone who's on the call today will at least consider collecting outcomes in their school districts. This really does allow you to get a sense of how the program is working. It also is great information to see areas where you may need to look at how the lessons are being taught, to maybe look at increasing fidelity if you're not seeing the outcomes that you're hoping for in particular areas. It also gives you information to share with your constituents who may provide sustainability funding for materials or other things. People like to be able to see how these programs are actually working within schools. And again, because of the fact that this is an evidence-based model program, the tools for these pre-post tests are readily available. There are on the EPISCenter's website. There are a lot of tools as well as other things to help you do the evaluation. And in addition, there's also information on the developer's website. So at this point, I'll be turning it over
we're going to turn it over to Karen Drewelow with the Blueprints Project to talk a little bit about the project in general, as well as best practices around application.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Kris and Sebrina, for that information. And I'd just like to thank everyone for participating in today's webinar and for your interest in the Life Skills Training Program grant. I'm going to take just a little bit of time to cover the eligibility requirements for our grant, the process evaluation that we conduct, and information on how to go about applying for this grant. Okay, so just very quickly, I do work at the University of Colorado at Boulder, and within university, we have the Center for the Study and Prevention of Violence. Within that center, we have the Blueprints Project, and this is a project designed to identify exemplary violence, delinquency, and drug prevention programs for youth. They have a system of designating programs as either model or promising based on what criteria they meet. The Life Skills Training Program has met the very rigorous research criteria to be considered a model program. It's one of only 14 out of more than 1,300 programs that have been reviewed at this point. So here you can see a list of some of the other model programs that are on our list. And if you're interested in learning about any of the other ones on here or the promising programs, the link to the Blueprints website is included on the bottom of this slide. Okay, this is a quick snapshot showing you what the program structure looks like and what units are included across all 3 levels. As Kris explained, it is a 3-level program, which is why we have a 3-year grant. In the first year of the grant, we provide the program materials and training for level 1 only. In year 2, we provide materials and training for levels 1 and 2, and then in year 3, all 3 levels are provided. The program can be implemented in either grades 6 through 8 or 7 through 9, so that's why you'll see across the top the 6/7 and so on. On the bottom, it shows you how many class periods are required for each level. In level 1, you'll see there's 15 required class sessions, and if you use the 3 optional, you would require 18 class sessions. Level 2, there's 10 and 2 optional, and level 3, 5 and 4 optional. So the units you see in red there are the optional violence prevention units. Okay, so we do have some implementation guidelines in order for this program to be implemented with fidelity. So this is kind of what we're looking for from our grantees when they're applying for this. The first is for them to reach all eligible students. So this means that the program should be implemented in a non-elective class. This is because it is a universal prevention program, so we want to make sure that all students can benefit from this program. The second, Kris already touched upon, but the program should be implemented at least once per week, but can be implemented more frequently, up to 5 times. Lessons are designed to take about 45 minutes. Sometimes teachers find that they would rather carry them over to spend a little more time on them, and that's okay as long as there's enough time in the implementation cycle to cover all of those core lessons. And units should also be delivered in order because they build upon each other. So placement of this is very flexible as long as these guidelines can be met. As Kris explained, oftentimes districts choose to implement through health and wellness because it aligns quite well with those standards, especially for Pennsylvania. However, we have had sites implement in a variety of ways, including social studies classes, science, homeroom, even across the curriculum. And it doesn't have to be implemented in the same class or same subject area, for all 3 levels. So, for example, you could do, if you have health and wellness in 6th grade and 7th grade, but not in 8th grade, you could implement level 3 in 8th grade through social studies, for example. Okay, so the requirements that we have for our applicants is that they can demonstrate that they're going to support the participating schools and teachers involved. Ensure that all teachers attend training workshops so they're certified to deliver the curriculum. We ask that a site coordinator is designated for each district to oversee implementation training and implementation overall. And then we ask districts to commit to program fidelity so that they can receive those outcomes that we're looking for. Finally, we ask that they allow CSPV to monitor that fidelity through a process evaluation. Okay, so this is a nice slide demonstrating everything that's provided through our grant. First, we provide annual teacher training for the first year, and then in year 2 and year 3, if everyone is a returning teacher that's already been through the training, we offer booster workshops. In addition to that, we offer a teacher stipend or substitute reimbursement depending on when the training is scheduled. We also provide additional training or technical assistance tailored to a district's needs, and this is done upon request. We have a regional 2-day training of trainers workshop so that someone from the district can be certified to train any new teachers in the program. So after the grant ends, it's an opportunity or a way to support sustainability. In addition to that, we have a 1-day regional sustainability workshop. Each year of the grant, our sites receive a feedback report detailing successes achieved and opportunities for improvement. And then probably most importantly on the bottom, you'll see that we provide curriculum materials for this. So in year 1, we provide all of the level 1 student guides and teacher's manuals. So those are the green materials on the left of that image. In year 2, we provide materials for levels 1 and 2. And then in year 3, materials for all 3 levels. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that we conduct a process evaluation with our grant to assess implementation fidelity. This has a few different components, so I'll just go over these quickly, and then if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those later. The first is we conduct an annual site visit. This is done by the CSPV field representative that's assigned to each site. We also gather feedback from teachers and the site coordinator. The teachers complete an online survey, and the coordinator completes a paper survey, and this is done each year of the grant. Classroom observations are conducted to evaluate implementation fidelity. Observers use checklists to determine if the points to make in the lessons are being covered. I want to stress the point here that this is not intended to evaluate teachers by any means. It's only to evaluate implementation fidelity, and all of the data we gather from this is reported at the site level, so we never report on anyone individually. So you can see the breakdown there by year and by level. The number of observations varies depending on what level the teacher is implementing. All of this information is reported to our sites annually in that year-end report. And then finally, in year 1 and in year 2 after the grant, so really if you think about it as year 4 and 5, we conduct a sustainability assessment, checking in with our coordinator to find out if the program is indeed still being used in the district. Here's a nice snapshot of the grant timeline. So again, you can see here in year 1, it's 6th grade or 7th grade, depending on the school structure, but just level 1. In year 2, it's level 1 and 2, and all 3 levels in year 3. So you can see here the breakdown for training, classroom observations, surveys, and then again in year 4 and year 5, we're simply conducting that sustainability assessment. Okay, so in terms of the application process, we try to make it as open and easy for everyone as possible. And so we have an application, and we have already pre-written letters that need to be signed by the superintendent and each participating principal. You can access these materials through this link, which takes you to the CSPV website. So there you can download the application and the letters, but they'll also be emailed to you after this webinar, so you'll have them that way as well. When those are completed, the application and letters will be submitted together and sent either to myself or to my colleague, Amanda Lane. Amanda is helping with recruitment in the western side of the state, and I'm working in the eastern side. However, if you're located somewhere in the middle and you're not quite sure who to send it to, just send it to one of us or both of us, and we'll make sure that it's handled promptly. After we receive the application, we conduct a quick review, and if there's anything we have questions about, we'll follow up with you and make sure that those are addressed. We want to give applicants as many opportunities as possible to meet those eligibility requirements. And then once that's completed, we'll go ahead and schedule a feasibility meeting. This is an on-site meeting that's usually about 60 to 90 minutes. We ask that participating principals and an LST teacher representative from each school participates in this. If the superintendent's available, that's great. We'd love to have that person there as well. So this is an opportunity for us to answer questions and provide additional information about the program and the grant. We also cover the implementation plan to make sure that everyone is on the same page and nothing has changed since the application was submitted. Usually within 1 to 2 weeks after that feasibility meeting is complete, we do a final review and we inform the applicant of inclusion status. So again, as long as those eligibility requirements that I've covered are met, then your district would be included in the grant. So if you have been awarded the grant, then in late spring or early summer of 2016, we go ahead and schedule the year 1 training. We work to identify who the teachers will be, and we hire a classroom observer. And that's someone who is local to your area. We take recommendations from the district of who might be a good person for that position. Okay, I just wanted to provide you with a few more resources here. The first one is the link to the Blueprints Program's website if you're interested in that. If you'd like to know what the real value of this grant would be for your district or your school, you can go to this grant value calculator link and put in the number of students you have, number of teachers, and the training workshop, and it'll provide you with a figure. But please just remember that all of the expenses for this grant are covered under our grant. And then finally, I have a link there to the LifeSkills Training Program website. Okay, so here you have contact information for my colleague Amanda Lane, again, who is helping with school districts interested in the grant in the western side of the state, and then my information. And Sharon Mahalik is our boss. She is the Blueprints Project Director. So if you have any questions about other Blueprints programs you might be interested in, she would be the person to go to for that. So I'd like to thank you for your time, and I also want to just say that I realize that there's probably some unique situations some of you might have, and you're not quite sure if you would be eligible for this program or for this grant. So I'd encourage you to email me or call me after this webinar, and I'm more than happy to answer those questions for you. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to open it up for some Q&A. We do have 2 current questions we're going to try to answer. The first one is related to, is there a current list of districts using the program? We do, through the EPISCenter, we've created an interactive map which actually highlights all of the 50-plus school districts that have come on board since 2013. I'm going to talk to our communications manager, who will be sending out a lot of the information after the webinar, about including the link to that map within that information. We have another question regarding the hiring of trainers. I'm going to actually turn that one over to Karen. Karen, the question is specifically, do they hire trainers, or how is that coordinated through this project?
Sure. So for the training workshops, that's something that we handle here at CSPV. We find out what dates work best for the school district of when they would like their training, and then we work with an organization called NHPA, National Health Promotion Associates, and we let them know what dates you'd prefer for your training, and we coordinate everything for that trainer to come in to your district on those days and conduct the training workshop. So we take care of all of the expenses involved with that and the coordination. We just work with the site coordinator to make sure that we have a location for it and dates that work for the teachers.
Karen, the next question is, would it be possible to condense the material into 2 years?
That's a good question. Unfortunately, that's not a possibility. It would need to be one level delivered per year. So 6th graders, for example, should only receive level 1.
But I'm going to.
Thank you, Karen. We have another question relative to the materials. Have the materials been revised since 2004? The answer to that question is yes. Karen, you may have a little bit more information than I do, but my understanding is the recent revision for life skills training was in 2013.
Yes, either 2012 or 13. I think it was 13. But so there is a recent revision, and really the basic components of the program stay the same. It was just kind of minor things that they were changing to make sure it was more relevant to the time. So, good question.
Any other questions for Karen or the folks here at the EPISCenter? Okay, we have another question. Can a counselor use the program as a group counseling session with select students instead of using in a classroom? I can answer that from the EPISCenter perspective and also allow Karen to answer from your perspective. That is not something that we would recommend here at the EPISCenter for use within Pennsylvania. But Karen, I'll allow you to touch on that from the Blueprints project perspective.
Sure. So because one of the requirements of our grant is to reach all eligible students, it sounds like that wouldn't be possible for our grant. With that being said, we certainly encourage counselors to be involved, and we welcome them to attend training so that they can reinforce these concepts when they do have group sessions or meet with students one-on-one. However, if they're only going to be meeting with a select group of students within the school for that, then it wouldn't meet our requirements for all eligible students.
Any other questions? Okay, I don't see any more questions popping up. Okay, we do have a question about where can I get the grant application. We're going to pop the link up for all of you right now. We're also going to send that in an electronic format to everybody that registered for today's webinar. Karen, we have a question for you. Are student workbooks replaced by the grant each year?
Yes, very good question. So let's say in year 3, for example, when we're providing the program to all 3 grade levels, all 3 of those grade levels are going to be receiving consumable workbooks, so 6th, 7th, and 8th. So each year we provide a fresh set of student workbooks so that each student has their own to write in and take home with them.
Great. Any final questions? Okay, in the interest of time, as I mentioned when we started out, I know many of you are very busy, so we're going to wrap up today, but please feel free to contact any of us with any questions you have. Project-specific information I think would be best directed to Karen or Amanda from Blueprints. If you have questions about outcomes data, Sebrina, Doyle here at the EPISCenter would be happy to answer those questions. And if you would like some more information relative to life skills training in general or some of the work that's being done in Pennsylvania, I'd be happy to answer those questions, so feel free to contact me here at the EPISCenter. Again, I appreciate each of you taking some time to be with us today, and thank you again, and feel free to contact us with any further questions.